I really want DMs to stop calling themselves storytellers. Hey there, adventurers. I'm Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe fun builds community. I know I'm going to get some pushback on this opinion. I've been told it's just semantics, but it's not. Words mean something, and while there are shared skills between them, storyteller means something very different from dungeon master or game master. Those shared skills are the reason this idea of the DM as storyteller is so prevalent in our hobby. Skills like a dungeon master designs game environments. Part of the DM's job, especially in a homebrew game, is creating the wondrous locations the players adventure in. A DM populates those environments. You create NPCs and you put them in those locations. You give them voices and personalities and purpose in the story of the game. A storyteller does that too. A game master describes environments and events and characters. Just like a storyteller, a good game master has to be able to paint a word picture of what's going on around the PCs to help fuel the players' imaginations so they can make the decisions that move the story forward. You're the character's interface with the world, their senses, if you will. A DM designs conflicts, whether they're social or combat encounters or skill challenges or puzzles. A TTRPG session needs conflict just like a story does, or what's the point? Those conflicts will look different in different genres, but both storytellers and dungeon masters need to be able to create them. Yeah, there are aspects of storytelling that are conducive to running an RPG, and a DM engages in those on a regular basis, but the differences far outweigh the similarities. A GM does not resolve conflicts. You and I create the situations surrounding conflicts, and we probably even set them up, but we don't create the resolutions. That comes down to a combination of the player's decisions and the dice. And listen, I've come out in favor of fudging dice rolls in the past, but only to rectify your own mistakes that negatively impact the players. There's no situation in which it's okay to fudge rolls to make sure the story goes in the direction you want it. A dungeon master does not drive the plot. A storyteller creates a beginning, a middle, and an ending. A DM doesn't, or at least shouldn't. Sure, create a compelling beginning that draws your players into the world and the conflicts, but if there's a predetermined outcome for anything in your game, it's not a game. Your players aren't players, they're spectators. The fact of the matter is the players' choices should be driving the plot. Along the same lines, the game master does not control the characters. Yes, you control the NPCs, but their job is to react and respond to the player characters. And take a guess who controls the player characters. Yeah, the players. If you try to control them with predetermined outcomes or describing how they behave, they're rightfully gonna get ticked. I feel like most of us probably know enough not to do this, but it's what a storyteller does. In TTRPG world, that's called railroading, and once your players catch on, and they will catch on, they'll resist, or they'll leave your game table. And what keeps us from being storytellers is that there are things we do that storytellers don't. But first, let's talk about today's sponsor. Into the AM has incredibly cool and amazingly comfortable apparel, from tees to hoodies to polos to pants. They're perfect for long game nights, a hard day at work, or just kicking back. I love their designs, and they're genuinely some of the most comfortable, best fitting clothes I own. Level up your comfort and get an additional 10% off your entire order, even stuff that's already on sale, at intotheam.com/shortreststudios. Game Master adjudicates rules. A player wants their character to leap off a wall onto the shoulders of an ogre. It's the DM's job to decide how that happens mechanically, like with an acrobatics check. It's also the DM's job to decide if it can happen within the game world. Maybe the top of the wall is 50 feet above the ogre. Is jumping onto his shoulders even doable? Or is the PC just going to sustain falling damage? It's your job to decide how or if that works within the rules of the game. A DM facilitates player agency. Look, I very often have an idea for what I think would be cool in my games. But just as often, if not more so, my players make different choices. And it's my job as the DM to defer to those choices regardless of what I think. Yes, I play an important role in the unfolding story, but it's no more important than theirs. In most games, they can't play without a game master, but the game master can't play without them either. Then you're writing a book. There are outcomes I think would be cool, but almost every time the dice and my players come up with something way cooler because it surprises me. A storyteller or an author or a screenwriter or a film director constructs an entire story. Locations, characters, conflicts, outcomes, and for all their talk about characters telling them where the story was going to go, which I actually get, the story is still coming entirely from that storyteller's mind. And yes, at your game table, a story is unfolding. An epic fantasy or a tale of eldritch horror or a sci-fi adventure, but you, DM, are not shaping it, at least not by yourself. It's not all coming out of your brain. The game system is shaping your story. If you're playing D&D 5e, it's a tale of superheroic high fantasy where your characters are more powerful or more intelligent than the average person and have a good chance of standing up to any threat. If you're playing Call of Cthulhu, it's a Lovecraftian horror yarn where real people are just trying to survive or not go crazy in the face of overwhelming cosmic terror. If you're playing Dungeon Crawl Classics, it's a story where regular people decide to become adventurers and will probably die, either at the hands of some horrific monster or their own wizard when one of his spells goes completely awry. The game system determines more than just which dice you roll when. It influences the type of story being told. The dice resolve conflicts. A storyteller determines how conflicts are resolved. Yes, a game master doesn't. The dice do that. The dice are arbiters of surprise. And that's where the fun comes in, not just for your players, but for you too. At least half the fun is not knowing how things will turn out. The players make the choices that move the story forward. The player characters are the protagonists in this story. And the players have their own desires and perspectives and sense of adventure and sense of fun, unlike the characters in a storyteller's tale. Yes, part of the fun for them is not knowing what's going to happen, and you control some of that, as do the dice. But part of the fun for them is also knowing that they have a role to play that influences the outcomes, that directs the path the story takes. I said earlier, if you try to force your players down a predetermined path, they'll know it. And then you may end up with no players. Game masters are not storytellers because games are a different kind of storytelling. Shared skills like describing events and locations, creating NPCs and dialogue don't make them the same. This isn't about semantics. If you tell a new DM they're a storyteller, they're going to come away from that conversation thinking they're in control of the whole story unless you provide some necessary context. And that's what I've tried to do here. Tabletop role-playing games are, as has been said often, collaborative storytelling. If you've got a story to tell, please tell it, just not at the game table. This is the story we're all telling together. And that's what makes our games worth playing. What do you think, adventurers? Drop me a comment. And if you got something out of this video, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And please consider supporting the channel by joining the Adventurers Guild at patreon.com/shortreststudios or by hitting the join button right under the video. Knowing you're not a storyteller will likely have a big impact on your game prep. Check out this video where I talk about 3 fun and easy DM prep secrets, and I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios.